Local history, local culture, local events, your community. This is the Joe Kelly Show.
And welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Oneida County Sheriff Rob Mashel is our guest. We're going to be talking about some local law enforcement issues, and we'll be getting the good sheriff's take on a bunch of other things. Before we do that, though, we're going to say welcome. Good to see you again, Sheriff.
Same here. Thank you for having me. It's certainly the weather's been on our side here the past few days, so
Yeah.
it's just a pleasant time here in our community.
And we should mention to folks that the sheriff is on one side of the studio. I'm on the other side of the studio, but we got the camera that's bringing us together, so we'll do the best we can with what we have at the present time. Rob, talking about that, the COVID has played havoc on so many things in our lives. What about with the Oneida County Sheriff's Office? How, for example, does the road patrol have to do their jobs any differently now?
It certainly has changed the way we do pretty much everything, and we talk about getting back to normal, and I certainly hope that happens sooner than later. But we also understand how important it is for us to lead by example. So road patrol, basically, if there's any non-priority calls, things that don't require emergency police response, such as a crime in progress, any of the other types of calls that we can, if there's something we can handle over the phone, we're doing that. Obviously, all our deputies and correction officers across the whole agency, we've equipped everyone with personal protective equipment. We refer to that as PPE. All the deputies have the appropriate equipment to protect themselves. And obviously for the calls that we need, and that's for the calls that we need personal response to, because obviously at the end of the day, if someone dials 911 for a crime in progress or any type of emergency, we're going to respond. There are no calls that we won't be going to. I mean, that's our job, and that's our job to keep the community safe. And our cars, luckily, are equipped with a lot of technology. So if we can take statements in the cars, we can, out and have the people stand outside the car so they're not in the confined area with us. We have printers in the car, so we can print off a statement and get the folks to sign. So it's certainly changed things for us because, especially as the sheriff, I'm a people person. I love being around people. It's been very difficult for me, as you know. Just this past Friday. Or a Friday ago, we got into the next phase where we can start going into restaurants. So, that's a good thing for me, again, because I like to be around people, and certainly, like I said, we're doing things a little bit differently and just trying to keep everyone safe. On the correction side of the house, things have changed drastically because we have, our inmates and officers working inside the building. We were one of the first counties to stop visitation, one of the first jails. Not that that was a popular thing by the inmates and the families, but at the same time, we want to keep everyone inside the facility safe. So again, we stopped visitation, but we also really amped up our technology. So video visitation has become very well received. Basically, it's like Skyping. People sign on onto a system, and they can visit with their loved one at the correctional facility. So that was one of the things we changed immediately. Obviously, correction officers, like deputy sheriffs, all given the proper PPE. When an inmate is brought into the jail for admission, before they even get out of the police car, they're given a surgical mask. They have to wear that in the facility. They go from inside the admission area of the jail and the booking area to a secure part of the facility, basically for orientation. Typically, orientation prior to COVID, we would have inmates in for about 5 days, obviously to learn about the inmate. They can learn the rules and regulations of the jail, getting them familiar with the facility, getting a chance for medical and mental health to interview the inmates. But what we've done is we've taken that 5-day orientation and we increased it to 15 days. Which I'm allowed to by law. And what that did is that gets us 1 day past the 14-day incubation period for COVID-19. So the inmate actually comes into our facility with a mask on prior to arriving. They're placed into a separate part of the jail for orientation. And as long as they make it through that 15 days without showing any symptoms of COVID-19, then they transition into general population. So it's been a huge change for us in the way we do our operations. But again, we want to keep our inmates safe and healthy, and we want to keep our officers safe and healthy. We are very lucky, and I know it could change tomorrow, but we are one of the few jails in the facility, or I'm sorry, one of the few jails in the state that has not had COVID-19, make its way into the inmate population.
That's what I was going to ask you, if it's gotten in there yet.
It has not.
Okay.
No.
The what happens if somebody shows up, a prisoner, an inmate, and he does have it or she does have it? Can they be sent somewhere else?
No, actually, obviously, if they do come in positive, or if they show symptoms while they're with us, while they're in that orientation period, then obviously they go into our medical side of the facility, in our medical unit. And we also have negative pressure cells in the jail, so that if a positive patient, if we did have an inmate that showed positive for COVID-19, they'd be placed in the medical unit inside a negative pressure cell, which obviously it's the same cell. It's got all the accommodations that the other parts of the jail have. And what that does is that ensures that the virus can't be passed outside of that cell. And again, everything would be brought to the inmate, meals and medications and whatnot. And then our medical unit would monitor the inmate. And if it got to the point where hospitalization is needed, then obviously transport to the hospital would take place. The other big thing that's happened is the courts have pretty much shut right down.
So that's the civil division of the sheriff's office?
Correct. And also corrections regarding transports back and forth to court appearances from the jail. Every court pretty much has shut down. They're just starting to open around the state. But we actually have been able to set up 5 stations inside the jail for virtual court appearances. Again, very similar to Skype, where we can have the defendant, or in our case, the inmate, on their end. We have a room where they can meet with their public defender or attorney, and then the judge would be sitting in a judge's chamber somewhere, Skyping in. The district attorney's office would be Skyping in, and so we're able to do virtual court arraignments and some virtual court hearings. We're just now starting to do a handful of transports back and forth to court for where in-person is required by the court.
My guess is that some of this will continue after the virus is settled down. I mean, one of the big costs you have is transporting from Oriskany to Utica, those prisoners, yes?
Definitely, it is a cost. We certainly hope that it continues, and the reason we're able to do this, because the law doesn't allow this, but because we're in a state of emergency statewide, the governor's executive orders basically spelled out a lot of things that had to change. But again, that's only temporary. So to make the virtual court appearance permanent, that would require legislation once we're through this pandemic. We will advocate for that, and but again, whether that actually happens or not, I don't know. But it's certainly not only a save cost, but we're cutting down on transportations, which is an officer safety plus, less chance of an escape, less chance of an accident, a lot less liability on the county. And again, going from transporting about 250 inmates weekly in and out of our facility to various court appointments to pretty much 0. Like I said, we just started doing some minimal court appearances recently, but that's been a significant cost savings and officer safety plus for us.
Okay, Rob Mayshield's our guest. He's the sheriff in United County. He's been sheriff for 10 years, but that's far from the record. I think I know who the record holder is, and I know he knows. We'll ask him that when we come back. Short break, right back.